So the revelation of numerous verses about the hypocrites indicates their importance and influence. The question is, what happened to the hypocritical party after the Prophet's demise? Why is there no news about them in history? Regarding the Battle of Tabuk, it's important to know that the Prophet was informed that the Roman Heraclius was preparing to attack the Muslim land. The Prophet understood that this was a trick, and unlike previous cases where he did not announce his war plan, this time he announced that he himself would go to Tabuk. In the end, no war took place. It seems that the Prophet's plan was to thwart the hypocrites' plan. Among the hypocrites' activities was the creation of a mosque to weaken the political centrality of the Prophet's mosque, Masjidun Nabi. It is in Surah Tawbah, verse 107. Another point that should be noted is the connection between the party of hypocrisy and the infidels or kuffar. Ibn Kathir says that the proposal to build a mosque to the hypocrites was made by Abu Amir, who was a Christian. Okay, so it's clear that it was a cooperation between hypocrites, Christian, Jews, and even Banu Umayyah, who were the enemy of Bani Hashim and enemy of Islam, or we can call them mushrikeen. The hypocrites asked the Prophet to pray in their mosque before setting out for the Battle of Tabuk, so that it would be legitimate, the mosque I mean, but the Prophet postponed it until after the battle. Of course, the Prophet destroyed the mosque after the war, as he received a revelation to do it. After the announcement of the Exodus, some of the companions, or better to say some of the hypocrites, excused themselves from participating in the war so that they could take control of the center of the Islamic State once Medina was empty. By examining historical evidence, we realize that this was a common plan of Rome, Jews, and hypocrites, as I told you. And these are the things that we can find in Surah Tawbah. To thwart their plan, the Prophet left Ali in Medina at the last moment and for the first time. This was a major blow to the hypocrites' plan, which is why they spread rumors that the Prophet was unhappy with Ali and had left him with women. Here the Prophet said the famous sentence, as all Muslims know it, I think. He said, "O Ali, are you not satisfied to be to me as Aaron was to Moses, except that there is no prophet after me? أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا لا نبي بعد." This means that just as the people of Moses revolted after his departure, so is Ali's situation like Harun. Another thing that we can find in the history, but it's very important, is the story of Aqabah, or the assassination of the Prophet, that it happened after the Battle of Tabuk, we can say, or after he was coming back from Tabuk. When the hypocrites saw that Ali was in Medina and not with the Prophet, a number of hypocrites decided to kill the Prophet on his way back, we can say. They conspired to throw him into a valley. The Prophet was informed through revelation. He ordered one of his companions, Ammar Yasir, to take the lead of his camel, and another, Huzaifa, to watch his back. The hypocrites tried to frighten the camel, but they were not successful, and the Prophet drove them away, and the hypocrites fled. Then Huzaifa asked the Prophet, "Why don't you introduce those hypocrites so that I can cut off their heads?" The Prophet replied, "I don't want people to say later that the Prophet killed his companions." So he asked even Huzaifa, don't tell anybody about that hypocrites or that people, because he knew them. Regarding the assassination of the Prophet, or regarding the assassination attempt on the Prophet, we should know that The names of the hypocrites who intended to assassinate the Prophet are unknown, and apparently the Prophet did not reveal their names. Of course, based on some historical accounts and evidence, it may be possible to guess some names. Second, it is said that Huzaifa knew their identities as he was there. The third point, Huzaifa once said, "If I were to say everything I know about them, you would kill me." This incident shows that some individuals held important position in the community despite being hypocrites. See that because of that, Huzaifa cannot tell their names even after the Prophet. It's strange that the books of biography, which have told many details about the Prophet and about his birth and about everything, even about his shoes and his shirts, are silent about the incident of Aqabah and the assassination of the Prophet, and don't provide many details. Just some books, just they say as it happened. After returning from Tabuk, the Prophet destroyed the mosque of, we can call it Masjid al-Dharar, as I told you, which was built by the hypocrites as a base for their conspiracies against Islam. So after returning from Tabuk, the Prophet took a firm stance against the hypocrites. Surah Tawbah verse 73 says, "Ya ayyuhan nabi, jahid al-kuffara wal-munafiqin, waghluz alayhim, wa ma'wahum jahannam, wa bi'sal masir." O Prophet, wage jihad against the faithless and the hypocrites, and be severe with them. Their refuge shall be hell, and it is an evil destination. It is in Surah Tawbah, or this is the reason they call it Surah Bara'ah. The proclamation of the verse of Bara'ah to the polytheist took place in the 9th year of Hijrah, after the Tabuk, in the time of Hajj, when Surah At-Tawbah, as known as Bara'ah, was revealed. This surah declared the annulment of treaties with polytheists or mushrikeen and granted them 4 months to leave the sacred territory of Mecca. The first 12 verses of Surah At-Tawbah were included in this announcement, particularly the first and second verse that says, "This is a declaration of assassination from Allah and His Messenger to those with whom you had made a treaty among the polytheists. So travel freely throughout the land for 4 months," etc. Okay, who delivered the message to mushrikeen? Initially, the Prophet ﷺ, or peace be upon him, assigned Abu Bakr to recite these verses during Hajj. However, Angel Gabriel instructed that this proclamation must be delivered either by the Prophet himself or by someone from his family, someone from himself, from the Prophet, like Nafsu Rasulullah. Thus the Prophet sent Imam Ali alayhi salam to Mecca and instructed him to announce these things. First, polytheists would no longer be allowed to enter Masjid al-Haram. Second, all treaties with polytheists were annulled except those with a fixed duration that had not been violated. Third, they had 4 months to leave the sacred land. And fourth, after this period, no polytheists would be safe unless they accepted Islam. Imam Ali alayhi salam traveled to Mecca, and on the 10th of Dhul Hajjah stood on Jamarat or Jamara al-Aqabah, reciting these verses and conveying the Prophet's decree. This event was a turning point in Islam's stance towards the polytheists of Mecca, solidifying its position as the dominant faith in Arabia. This incident also shows the position of Imam Ali alayhi salam.